There is a new fad diet that seems to come out every other week. First it was keto, then paleo, then the carnivore diet. Then you have all the fitness influencers who tell you you don't even need to focus on the nutrition of the food, just count your macros and you can still lose weight and build muscle. There's people on the opposite spectrum who will sit here and tell you you don't have to focus on the macros of food, just eat clean, eat healthy, and that's all that really matters. With all this information out there, which one is truly the correct choice? It can be very overwhelming, and when you look up tips to lose weight, gain muscle, you get hit with 20 different strategies and then you try all of them at once, and because of that, none of them seem to work. And your main goal of dieting is to lose weight, build some muscle, or gain weight and build some muscle. But what nobody tells you about is the actual mental benefits you can get from dieting. If you're truly eating a clean, healthy, proper diet, you will have virtually zero brain fog, extremely good focus, very high energy levels, and best of all, your sleep quality goes up tremendously. I've pretty much sat here and devised every single logical diet you can do into 4 separate groups. Group 1 is the optimal diet. In the second group, I have it labeled as could be better. Group number 3, these foods are bad for you, but they could be worse. And the last one, I labeled it the worst of the worst. So of every single dieting strategy I've tried, which I've pretty much tried all of them that exist in this world, by far the most optimal for me is the carnivore diet. The food you should ideally be aiming to eat in this diet is meat. Mainly red meat, but pretty much any meat will subside, but ideally you want foods with a lot of high animal fats. Red meat, salmon, maybe some chicken, lamb, but it's not just meat. The other foods included in this diet will include eggs, raw dairy such as raw cheese, raw milk, and raw yogurt, fruits and vegetables, honey, and some nuts. The ideal goal out of this diet, your macros are going to look something like this: very high protein, very high fat, and low carb. It's almost like a keto diet, but it's a hybrid version and not the bullshit they tell you how you could eat stuff like chicken wings and fried food. You want to avoid those foods at all costs. But ideally, in my opinion, from my personal experience, this is the most optimal diet for your physical and mental growth. What are some benefits you could expect to see from this? The first one, unbelievably high energy levels. Your energy will feel through the roof, and you're almost going to feel like a little kid again, in the sense you're going to be in the mood to do absolutely anything and everything that is good for you. The second one, you're gonna have virtually zero brain fog. Envision this: you can read for 2, 3, 4 hours straight, zero brain fog. You can work for 2, 3, 4 hours straight, zero brain fog, zero distractions that pop into your mind, unbelievably high energy levels. You don't get any stupid sexual thoughts and stupid thoughts that pop into your head, and it is absolutely life-changing for your productivity. Other benefits, your digestion will be phenomenal, virtually zero constipation and zero bloating. And lastly, but certainly not least, you will virtually have zero blemishes. I used to have like a 10-step skincare routine to try to keep clear skin, and as you can see now, I pretty much have zero blemishes, and all I really do is wash my face in the shower, and that is absolutely it. This is the most optimal diet you can eat, in my opinion. It is optimal for testosterone, optimal for zero brain fog. Your energy levels will be through the roof. Your physique will look the best it ever has. You will have zero bloating, and between me and you, it's also gonna make your little friend downstairs bigger, and you know what I mean by that, and no, I am not lying when I say that. In the second group, it is still good, but could be better. These are foods like rice, oats, wheat bread, maybe some popcorn, but not the bullshit popcorn you're buying. The popcorn with no butter, no extra added flavors, maybe just a little bit of salt. If you want to throw some olive oil or something on there, feel free. And the non-raw forms of dairy. This would include low-fat milk, some of those pre-spun yogurts, and maybe some cheese that isn't raw and has been a little bit processed. If you're eating foods out of this group, what could you expect to see? You can still make wonderful gym progress eating these foods. You're gonna have low levels of brain fog eating this, but still some. Very minimal, but you're still going to have some brain fog eating this. You're still gonna have relatively high energy levels, but not quite as optimal as the first list of foods shown to you on the screen. Very, very minimal bloating. You're still gonna have a very, very slight amount, but it shouldn't be anything too crazy, and nothing so bad to a point where you feel like a blob walking around all day. And ideally, if you're gonna eat foods that weren't included on the first list popped up on the screen, you should really try to make them from this list, because it's not gonna kill you. It still could be a little bit better, but eating foods like this is still perfectly fine. But if you want the primal, optimal, full effects, full benefits, zero brain fog, everything, you want to stick to the first list, but this one still is not bad by any means. The third list, this one is labeled bad, but could be worse. Ideally, you want to try to avoid these foods. They're not good for you, but it could be a little bit worse. This includes desserts, such as cake and ice cream, some protein bars, some of the processed popcorn that does have some of the butter, some of the flavoring in it that isn't very good for you, the healthy fast foods such as Chipotle. Even though Chipotle is much healthier than most fast food places, it still has some bad ingredients such as seed oils in it, and also a couple of unhealthy ingredients on the menu that ideally you should try to avoid. And lastly on this list, foods such as processed healthy foods. This is mainly those frozen meals and some of those healthier foods that have a couple of unhealthy preservatives in them and some extra flavoring to spice it up. What could you realistically expect to gain from eating these foods? You could still make good gym progress with these foods. I lost about 70 pounds eating foods like this. I still made good gym progress with this, but you're gonna be better off with the first two lists provided on the screen. This food is gonna provide a pretty decent amount of brain fog. Nothing too crazy, nothing out of this world, but you'll notice it's gonna be much harder to focus eating these groups of foods as opposed to the first two. These types of foods can definitely give you a good amount of bloating if you eat them in an excess amount, and a little bit of struggling in digestion and maybe getting constipated every here and there. And also your energy levels are not gonna be that optimal after eating these types of foods. You'll notice after eating these foods, especially in an excess amount, you're gonna feel very tired, very lazy, very out of it. But the reason I said these foods could be worse is they still have some nutritional value. Most of these foods listed have some real ingredients in them, like cake and ice cream. Even though they are obviously terrible for you, they still have a couple real ingredients in there, like some eggs, some milk, some cane sugar, and some other things. With the protein bars, there's still some protein in them. Even though it's processed and not really good protein for you, there's at least something in there that could be somewhat beneficial. With the processed popcorns, there's obviously a lot of bad flavoring and bad oils and butters in there, but there's still some fiber in there and it could be a worse snack choice. And with the healthier fast food, it's obviously better to eat something like Chipotle than McDonald's, for example. But there's still going to be some ingredients that are going to make you feel very bloated, very tired, very out of it. And same goes with the frozen meals, which have some nutritional value, but you could do a lot better. But on the other hand, you could do a lot worse. And that takes me right into the last list, the worst of the worst. You should try to avoid these foods at all costs. And just remember, you are only human after all. I obviously slip up and eat these foods sometimes, but try to avoid them at all costs. And the best way to avoid these is to simply not have them in your house. What do these foods include? Chips, sugary snacks you buy from the store, stuff like Pop-Tarts, honey buns, Twinkies, all that type of stuff. Candy, such as gummy bears, all the gummy snacks. Chocolate bars, should go without saying why it's bad for you. And almost all processed fast foods, other than a very select few that have some nutritional value. What can you expect if your diet primarily consists of these? Your gym progress will be significantly stunted. Can you still make progress eating these? Yes, if you can eat them in moderation, you still can technically lose weight and build some muscle, but it's obviously not optimal. Your energy levels will be significantly depleted after eating these foods, especially in an excess amount. Be honest with yourself for a second. After you eat a whole king-size bag of Doritos, do you ever feel good after that? Do you ever feel energetic? Do you ever feel like you're in the mood to do something? This is going to cause you very, very high amounts of brain fog. I could tell you from personal experience, and you probably could too, after you eat a whole bag of Doritos, a whole bag of gummy bears, 5 chocolate bars in a sitting, you just have a bad night of eating. There is about a 100% chance whatever activity you choose to do after is not going to be very productive and beneficial towards you. Something that's funny that I noticed, these foods are most commonly ate when you're doing bad things. When you're scrolling through TikTok, when you're playing video games, when you're sitting there doing nothing, when you're drunk, when you're high. Usually these foods are ate in succession to doing a bad habit or right before you do a bad habit. Your bloating will be through the roof with these foods. You're gonna look like a pregnant lady after eating foods like this. And lastly, it is very hard for your body to digest these foods because it's not real food. It causes a lot of bloating, a lot of water weight, and all around makes you feel like absolute crap. Now I know what you're thinking, Danny, how am I supposed to switch my diet full 180 and go from eating all this bullshit processed foods to only eating steaks, eggs, avocados, nuts, raw dairy? To answer your question simply, you have to work your way up there. If you eat 4 meals a day and it's all bullshit, unhealthy, fast food, and a bunch of snacks, it would be very unrealistic of me to sit here and say, yeah, you can change this all overnight. The way you should do this is to work your way up the tier list. If you're eating foods in the worst of the worst, try to start switching your diet over to the could be worse. And then from the could be worse, work to the could be better. And then from the could be better, try to work your way up to the optimal. optimal. This is the strategy I used to do it. When I was overweight, this is obviously the list of foods I was primarily eating, the fast food, the chips, all the bullshit. After that, I started switching over to the strategy of, you know what, I don't care about the nutrition, I'm gonna track my macros. Once I started doing this, I made a lot of progress. My physique looked a lot better, I lost a lot of weight, my gym progress started going up, but I still had a lot of brain fog, a lot of bloating, and struggled with indigestion a lot of times. After that, I slowly worked my way up to the could be worse. I was eating a lot of oats, a lot of rice, a lot of bread, some of those pre-spun yogurts. My primary snack was popcorn, and I started to get less brain fog, better focus, less bloating, better digestion, better gym progress, better energy levels, and then from there I slowly started implementing one meal at a time. So once a day I would eat some steak and eggs, then the rest of the foods I would eat would be in this list. But eventually, and it took me about 4 years to get to where I'm at today, I'm finally at a point now where about 95% of the foods I eat come from that first list, and the amount of benefits I get is absolutely unbelievable. I could not even describe it to you in words. Just remember, like building any good habit, including going to the gym, you have to progress your way up to that point. It is unrealistic to try to switch that fully overnight. If you try to, I promise you, maybe you'll hit a week or two, or if you're lucky, a month or two successful with it. But after some point, you're gonna crash and burn and resort to the old diet. So work your way up there slowly but surely. If this video helped, leave a like, comment, or subscribe. And just remember, if you think nobody believes in you, I am always watching, and just know that I do.